In my online classes this term, I've been using Jing to provide feedback to my students' papers. I can't really say that this is the best way of doing it because I'm really still experimenting, but here's an example of what I've been doing. So I go through and read their paper, and as I read it, I highlight areas that I think are interesting that I'd like to discuss with them, or perhaps areas that I think are a bit problematic that I'd like to talk with them about. In addition, sometimes I, in bold, will put some of my ideas to separate from their ideas. Okay, so I didn't want to use one of my students' papers, so I created my own paper. This is a little bit contrived, but if I were to respond to this paper, it might go something like this. So I enjoyed reading your paper, and I have gone through and I've highlighted some areas of interest that I'd like to discuss with you. To begin with, let me point out that I really like this idea that there's multiple ways that Jing can be used, and I like the three stakeholders that you've identified. I can see those as being important, from the teacher, the student, to the class. I really liked your example of Little Gecko, and I saw that in the Tech Met Ed post, and I think that's a great example of how a young child can get excited and employ technology. With the class, I love this idea of collaborating with other classes, and maybe you've thought about it, maybe you haven't thought about it before, but let me provide you with this link to voicethread.com. It's a great online tool that can provide collaboration with other classes. So check it out if you haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. I also like this idea of Prezi and PowerPoint, and I've used those, I think, with some success before in my online classes as well, combining them with Jing. You mentioned three really good advantages to using Jing. Individualized instruction is number one, and I would agree with this. I feel like I can offer more tailored instruction to each student as I'm creating an individual video for them. I also agree with this idea of more explanation in less time, and I like how Jing cuts me off in 5 minutes because I can tend to have a few more words than I need to at times. But when I compare what I can say compared to what I can write, it takes me less time to say it, and I can also offer little stories that I hope are interesting to my students in their papers. I love the application that you use here for an advantage for ELLs, English language learners. It's important for them to have both of these areas of input, listening and reading, and I think Jing offers both of these, and we can see this in this example. What are other uses and benefits, you ask? I think that's a great question, and I hope you continue to think about it and offer me some additional information here. So I'm going to summarize by saying great applications. I enjoyed reading your ideas, and a 10 out of 10 was earned on this paper. Okay, so that's an example of how I might offer feedback to Jing, and feel free to give me feedback about my feedback and additional information of how you might use this in your classroom.